Hi, Karong here, and today I have the ALO Audio Studio Six, this massive amp you see in front of me. Now, ALO Audio, of course, is very well known on HeadFi. They have been making cables for headphones from a long time back, since Ken Ball started on his own, and since then have branched out into portable headphone amps and DACs, and even desktop amps with the Pan Am and series. And the latest creation of theirs is the Studio Six, which you see here. Actually, it's the creation of a man called Thomas Martens, who lives nearby Ken Ball. And with his help, they designed a, well, it's a very large tube amp with 6 tubes, not surprisingly. So, of course, being a big tube amp, it has a big price, about $100 shy of $5,000. The question here is, $5,000 from ALO Audio. What is this thing? You know, what's special that it costs so much money? And that was an interesting question for me when I first got the amp. Is, you know, I know about single-ended triode amps, which this is one, but what is so special about them that it costs so much money? So I plugged in the amp, hooked up in my DAC, plugged in some headphones and listened away, and what I heard was music. It was good. It didn't have boomy bass or a sharp treble or anything particularly that I didn't like about it. It sounded, you know, like music. And over time, it really started to grow on me what was so special about this amp. But to explain that, let me explain a bit about something that happened in my past, well over 10 years ago. I was living in Tokyo and doing Aikido at the Aikido World Headquarters. And I would get up very early in the morning to go to the class which was taught by the grandson of the founder of Aikido. Now he's a man where, you know, we used to, martial arts masters who have their own style, they look impressive, they do these impressive things. But when you train with this, the grandson of the founder, when he did an Aikido technique, you'd look at it and you'd say, well, that looks like an Aikido technique. And when you watch videos of him, he does only the Aikido techniques, and you see, yep, that's what they're supposed to look like. And it didn't dawn on me for months what was so special about that. And then I realized that his technique was always perfect all the time. It was just absolutely right all the time. And in the same way, the presentation of the Studio Six, it wasn't until I plugged into other amps that I realized what was so amazing about it. Now, to give you an example, you know, I thought when I listened to it, I thought, you know, the soundstage doesn't sound that large on some of the music I listened to, which was recorded in a studio or somewhere where you get with 2 microphones for left and right rather than assembled after the fact. But when I went back to my normal reference amp, the Audio GD Phoenix, which discontinued but still my reference, and actually I realized the soundstage on the Phoenix was smaller. And I thought, what? That usually has a huge soundstage. And I realized that what this amp was giving me was an absolute representation of the music I was hearing. It was telling me absolutely how large the venue was I was hearing. It was telling me absolutely how good my DAC was. Absolutely what the headphones are capable of, no more and no less. Absolutely how good the cables were between the DAC and my and the Studio Six. Absolutely what these tubes could or couldn't do when I swapped out a new old stock tube or you know, one of my 50 Sylvania 6S N7 GT, or these 6V6s that Ken kindly provided with this, etc. It's such an absolute amp, and it controls the driver of the headphones with such absolute authority that if the music requires the minutest micrometer of movement, it will move the driver of the headphones, that absolute micrometer, no more and no less. Even if there are 4 pairs of headphones which are completely different plugged in, even if the music is a huge dramatic orchestral work or a jazz piece or pop music or whatever it is, it will give you absolutely that. And what made it more amazing was I played something like Friday Night in San Francisco, which you can get in HD tracks, which is very, very fast guitar music with John McLaughlin, and I don't want to try and pronounce the names of the other players, I'll stuff it up, but it's very, very fast, very high quality recording of of guitar playing. And a lot of amps, you know, when the music gets busy, they start to lose a bit of detail, or especially with some headphones, especially planar headphones, you can get the diaphragm can be fairly heavy. It can start to overwhelm the amp, and you lose some detail and you lose some precision. But the precision was not lost for the tiniest, minutest fraction of a second. So as the music got faster and busier and more guitars playing and more overwhelming, and all that overwhelming level of detail came rushing through, it was absolutely apparent how awesome the experience was listening with this amp and a pair of high-end headphones, whether they be planars or HD800s or what have you. And so in that, this amp has entranced me in its ability to deliver absolutely what I want to hear. And if I change so much as the interconnects, I can hear absolutely the tiniest difference in that experience. And that's what's amazing about it. It doesn't have amazing measurements, because set amps usually don't, or a lot of amps usually don't. It just, when you hear it, you understand. With very high quality music and very high quality supporting gear, then you understand what's so special about it. And the same thing, because locally there's a hi-fi store that modifies locally made single-ended triode or set amps to work with speakers. And that I heard recently with a set of horn speakers, and that was exactly the same thing. A drum hit, you got the full impact of it down to the slightest detail of the echoes around the studio or venue it was recorded in. All of that overwhelming, you know, not the slightest lack of control there. And that kind of experience is what's amazing about set amps, at least I've found anyway. So the question I ended up asking Ken was not, why does it cost $100 shy of $5,000? The question is, why doesn't it have speaker taps on the back? And Ken's answer was, oh yes, in the office we hook it up to a pair of speakers with an adapter. And he sent me this. There we go. Headphone socket, speakers. Quite a solution. Not quite as neat as a pair of speaker taps, but all the same, it works. I plugged it into a pair of Paradigm Titans, albeit not really special in terms of speakers, and yes, it was very good. The other thing about this amp, of course, is it's a tube roller's delight. I mean, it comes with a set of stock tubes, and in this case, Ken sent me a couple of new old stock 6v6s, and I had my 50 Sylvania 6SN7. But with 4 different kinds of tubes, it is possible to go quite crazy or quite gentle with how much you spend on playing around with them or upgrading them. There's a 5AR4 rectifier, that's for the power rectification. That can be cheap or expensive. It's all over the shop and what you can get in those. The OB2s actually were the cheapest. These are, again, they're gas rectifiers. They sometimes even put on a bit of a light show for you. They glow nice and bright when they are going. And the 6v6s, of course, are cheap or expensive. Your mileage may vary, and of course the good old 6SN7, which can be, again, cheap or expensive. Of course, this one cost me only $50 for a nice 50 Sylvania, and it does affect the sound. The 6SN7, this is a fairly neutral one that I have, so of course that changes the presentation to fairly neutral and clear. If you get the old Soltec ones, then they're a bit more boomy in the bass. Again, the 6v6s, you can change the presentation as you like. The stock tubes are these TADs, which I'll pop one out to show you. You've seen these in the pictures, so you'll see when he's presenting the amp, you know, you'll often see these brown bass tubes. They sounded actually a bit harsh. So I don't know if that's the tube or it just needs more burn in, but I put the new old stock tubes in and just left them there. So that's, once you've got a good set of tubes in there, the other people I've talked to who've got the amp said the same thing. Once they get a set of new old stock tubes in there, it's just glorious. You just stop thinking about rolling tubes. Of course, last but not least, cables. And of course, we're talking ALO here, so to go with your headphones, you can get a set of pretty cables. This is an Audeze set. I don't have the HD800 set, and Ken has a weaving machine, so you now get these beautiful cables from him, and they're not just pretty. You can hear some difference, especially with the headphone cables. The HD800s have been fairly notorious for people preferring them with a cable upgrade. the thing, a bit of a diversion, but with mine I did what's called the anaxylus mod, where you put some non-slip, carefully cut non-slip matting in there, and that non-slip matting damps the reflection of the highs off the internal parts, and it doesn't tame the highs, but it does remove some of that harshness and makes them sound more precise. And of course, with a little bit of a cable change too, that I can add to it, and the resulting presentation is really, really nice. And last but not least, I did say, you know, cables are a controversial thing, but at this kind of level with a really good quality DAC, you do start to notice the difference with a lot of listening. And these are the Reference 20 interconnects, which have 4 internal connectors and 16 outer. And yes, they look impressive, and you know, you could say, and sound impressive. They did bring out the bass just a little bit and kind of make everything sound nice and wider, and give a bit of a better presentation overall. So I'd say if you're going to go for the whole kit, you know, it's the kind of amp that you really don't just, oh, I want to buy the amp and I don't want to think about the other stuff. It's really, you should consider the whole kit, and plus whatever tubes you might end up getting, and consider it that way. It's not for the kind of thing for people who are going to hesitate about spending that kind of money. It really is a serious investment. So there you have it, the Studio Six. Certainly a very impressive amp, and one for people who are very, very serious about their whole headphone listening kit. And indeed, if it had speaker taps and you like near field listening especially, it would be, you know, it could be just about, other than your source, a one-stop investment from ALO to get a whole awesome listening experience without need for upgrades, except for maybe playing with tubes. So I hope you liked my presentation, and I'll see you on HeadFi.